The third ancient weapon is here. Not like here, but here. Even if you don't realize it, you've seen it before. Or should I say, you've seen him before? No, I probably shouldn't. Hello and welcome to the Grand Line Review, your source for everything One Piece. My name is Liam and I'm going to need you all to be a bit more mature today because our topic is Uranus. Easily one of the funniest words in the English language, mainly due to two other words that exist within that same language, being Yor and Anus. But in the One Piece world, Uranus is one of the most terrifying entities to exist. One of the three ancient weapons which is said to do all of the bad things. And while it hasn't quite had the focus of your Plutons and your Poseidons, Oda must have holes in his pockets because he has dropped so much information about Uranus just all over the place. So let's pick up after him. And helping me with this task will be Day, Warm Cup of Tea, and the Last Demon. You hear that? No more after this one. But these three mighty souls did the amazing thing of pressing the subscribe button for the Grand Line Review, which will result in consistent injections of One Piece culture being administered directly into your YouTube feed. So if you want to be our next subscriber of the day, then hit the button and please do say hi in the comments below if you are a new member of the Grand Fleet. Welcome. So, what is Uranus? Well, you may recognize it as one of the blandest looking planets in the entire solar system. It's actually incredibly fortunate that it has the name Uranus, or else we would all forget about it. More importantly though, Uranus is the name of the Greek god of the sky, a being said to be able to control the weather. And both sky and weather are going to be very important topics for this video, because that's where this ancient weapon will be most prominent. Much like how Poseidon reigns in the sea and Pluton for some reason controls the land, despite the fact that Pluto rules the underworld. Greek gods are weird, and speaking of, Uranus was both the son and husband of Gaia, which, that's just a thing that happens in Greek mythology from time to time, although Uranus was also castrated by said Gaia as well as Cronus, after which point he faded into obscurity, never to be relevant again. So the god Uranus actually has a very similar role to the ancient weapon of the same name in One Piece. Both of them are known to exist somewhere, but haven't done anything of note at any point. I guess Uranus did create some of the Titans, but all that did was get his balls cut off, so it was a good job, you stupid god. And in other ball-related news, this is our first stop for Uranus, the mysterious egg on the Orojackson, a fun feature that casual readers or watchers may never even have noticed. Oda certainly hasn't put any kind of emphasis on it, it's just there whenever the Orojackson appears. It's almost an elephant in the room style thing where nobody acknowledges the massive egg just sitting right in front of them. And the idea is that this ego contains Uranus, and that the ancient weapon is some sort of flying creature like a mythical rock birdie, for example. As long as it flies, it can be any kind of birdie, really. And this may seem like speculation about Uranus coming directly from Uranus, but what primarily sparked this thought was Golden Lion Shiki in Chapter 0/Episode 0, which is a kind of unfortunate source, because to my knowledge, neither the chapter nor the episode has ever been officially translated in English. So for this, we need to turn to scanlations and fan subs, because while I do support the official release, there does actually need to be released to support. But Chapter 0 is a canon collection of events, one of which is the Battle of Ed War, and it's difficult to tell whether this was one battle within a great war, or a battle that took place at a very coincidentally named Ed War, but whatever the case, this involved Golden Lion Shiki cornering Goldie Roger and legitimately threatening to bring down the future Pirate King. Not before offering him an alliance though, because Shiki knows that Roger knows something, and Roger knows that Shiki knows that he knows. Before declaring fisticuffs, Shiki in the fan sub invited Roger to join him, and said, "We'll use that apocalyptic weapon you found," which is a clear reference to an ancient weapon, and because Shiki was pointing directly at the ship, it gives the impression that he is potentially referring to the egg. However, the line in the manga scanlation is quite different, with Shiki saying, "You know the location of the weapon that can destroy the world," which implies the exact opposite of the fan sub because it alludes to the idea that the ancient weapon is not currently present. Not that Shiki necessarily knows what the ancient weapon is or has any idea where it is, and not that these translations should be heavily read into regardless. It's one of those situations where I really wish we had some sort of official ruling, but What we do know is that the Battle of Ed War took place before Roger recruited Odin, which is ever so surprisingly important to this discussion because Roger did not discover the location of Poseidon until after Odin joined. So we do know for a fact that Shiki is not referring to Poseidon, which increases the chances of it being Uranus. However, there is that pesky Pluton to account for, because the Orojackson was obviously built by Tom, who held the blueprints for Pluton. So Roger very conceivably could have known maybe not where the original Pluton is, but where the schematics for a new one were. Another argument in favor of our egg, though, is that this battle ended with a sudden violent storm, a storm that engulfed the majority of Shiki's fleet, allowing the Roger pirates to escape unharmed, which I bring up because of course Uranus was said to be able to control the weather. So if in some sort of crazy circumstance the egg felt like it was in danger, it could have been responsible for conjuring that sudden storm, sort of like how Shirahoshi accidentally invoked Poseidon when she was but a young merlap. glass. However, I'm not sure how much tomato sauce I want to squeeze out of this particular bottle, because this is the Grand Line after all, potentially even the New World, and sudden shifts in apocalyptic weather are quite common. And as for how Roger can survive such an event, he is one of the various characters who has either extraordinary luck or completely OP fate on his side. But those aside, the egg is still an interesting idea. And it also contributes to the fact that Roger discovered he was too early to do whatever the thing is that Joy Boy needs to do. And much of that may have to do with the One Piece itself, but also, of course, Shirahoshi had not been born yet. Neither had Luffy, actually. So perhaps the egg was just another one of those yet to be born entities, which meant that Roger would be unable to make use of them because he was struck down with a very unfortunate case of imminent death. All right, big twist now. Maybe the egg is just an egg. Sometimes eggs do that. In fact, the vast majority of eggs do not turn out to be ancient weapons. But if we look high up into the sky, we see the mightiest egg ball of all, also known as the moon. From NL's cover story, we do know that Skyfolk had this super advanced technology that allowed them to travel through space and eventually settle on the One Piece world. So the primary thought here is that the reason why Uranus has been so absent from this story is because it may actually be in space. Maybe even one of the moons themselves. Moons, of course, do have quite a bit of control over weather. Whether that be the tides, temperatures, rainfall, or any of the storm-conjuring goodness. I will admit that part of me is only saying this because I really want to see Luffy go into space, but there is still something here. In the same way that Poseidon is intrinsically linked to the mermaids, it would stand to reason that Uranus is governed by the Sky Peeps. And if not an actual moon, of which there are many surrounding the One Piece world, then some sort of flying device capable of controlling the skies. Although I suppose that sounds more like the sky equivalent of the Noah. Personally, I'm also less keen on the idea of another device thing because that's what Pluton already is, a mechanical construct, whereas Poseidon is an organically inherited power. So for Uranus, we may actually want to look at a third option. That third option being kind of ball related. And you know, I really didn't think that Uranus's castration would be this relevant, but here we are. So how about a devil fruit? You know, those things in One Piece that explain almost all of the bizarre phenomena we tend to encounter. Because interestingly enough, we just so happen to have a character who is implied to be able to control the weather. And that would be the dragon guy. Although I suppose I should probably be more specific. There are like 4 different dragon guys in One Piece, but the one I'm referring to is the monkey dragon. While still being shrouded in a veil of sheer cockteasery, Dragon does appear to have very suitably Uranus-style abilities, which he may or may not have received from a very particular devil fruit. And it may even just be flat out called the Hito Hito no Mi model Uranus, because if you can cram the entire concept of Buddha into a devil fruit, then why not Uranus? But while we're here, there is another potentially relevant dragon who goes by a name that isn't dragon, but he is a dragon, and that is Momonosuke. This idea has been around for quite some time. The earliest record I can find of it was on a Reddit thread in 2018, but it's had a bit of a resurgence in popularity of late, and much of it has to do with parallels, because Momonosuke is stunningly similar to a certain Shirahoshi. Both of them have the voice of all things style connection that has led them to commanding mighty beasts. Both of them are close crybaby allies of Luffy, and of course both of them are like super pink. And before we point out that elephants cannot fly and therefore cannot sky, Zunesha does happen to be a very special boy. He's so tall that he is essentially a sky island. In fact, Zunesha's even better. He is 35 kilometers tall, which makes him taller than a sky island. And we know that because the seafloor is roughly 10 kilometers below sea level, and the White Sea, which houses the sky islands, is 10 kilometers above it, making Zunesha a whopping 15 kilometers taller than Sky Islands, which is wild. Damn, that boy is big. It even starts to make you, or I suppose me, it starts to make me wonder if Zunesha himself is Uranus, because right now in the series he is the undisputed lord of the sky. And rather adorably, Zunesha's Vivia card states that his diet primarily consists of delightful sky apples, which is so cute. But wings or no wings, Momonosuke did demonstrate the ability to control this massive sky denizen in the same way that Shirahoshi can command all of the sea denizens. But with Momonosuke, he's also wildly important because Yamato has stated that it is Momo's role to bring about the dawn of the new world, so that sounds pretty important to me. Along with the fact that he is literally a dragon, and dragons typically reside in the sky. And no, the eastern dragons can't technically fly in One Piece, so they're kind of posers in that regard. More like scary sky lizards, really. And while I have admittedly been pretty dismissive of the Momo is Uranus idea in the past, it's actually not the most far-fetched thing in the world. In the context of One Piece being a story about young people rising up and achieving their dreams and things, Momo occupies a very similar role to that of Shirahoshi. And it's easy to see a situation where Luffy, the Joy Boy, guides the world to the dawn Swan Thing with the help of his friends Crying Pink Mermaid and Crying Pink Dragon, each of whom are a ridiculously important ancient weapon for reasons. And Momo also works with the idea of Roger reaching the climax of his journey a bit prematurely, because Momo also would have been too young to use his funky powers. So I'll be less dismissive about Momo in the future. We're gonna have a lot less Momonosuke and a lot more Momoyesuke. But we're not done yet because Oda keeps leaving his Uranus crap all over the house with the introduction of King, or more accurately, the introduction of that ancient sky race, once residing atop the Red Line, which is something we definitely cannot dismiss because Uranus is sky-based. So it's entirely possible that the world government already has control of Uranus and that it may be their national treasure or something. Although that becomes very tricky because the treasure is meant to do something special with the Ope Ope no Mi and then so on and so forth. But the overwhelming possibility at this stage is that we've already been exploring Uranus and you just don't know it yet. And I'm sorry about that. That does sound unpleasant, but that's just how it is. There's not a lot of time left with One Piece, and having to introduce and explore a new ancient weapon seems quite time costly. Whereas if Oda were to say strategically insert said weapon and then just drop the bomb on us that bam, the egg is Uranus, or bam, Momonosuke is Uranus, then that's very much something that I could see happening. Just as I could see you clicking this next video, because there's always more to learn, explore, and experience with this wonderful series, so I look forward to seeing you there.